Welcome to The Explainer. Right now, the global economy feels like it's in a massive tug of war. You've got these really powerful forces pulling for growth and optimism on one side, and on the other, you've got equally strong forces just dragging everything down.
So that's the big question, right? What are these forces and who's actually winning this thing? In this explainer, we're going to break it all down. We'll look at the major headwinds, the government crackdowns, and then the surprising tailwinds, which are basically waves of pure market optimism. By the end, you'll have a much clearer picture of this battle that's shaping where your money and the entire global economy is headed next. So, let's get right into it. This tug of war between the headwinds and the tailwinds. And we're going to start with the stuff that's pulling things back. Okay, our first major headwind, what we're calling the government squeeze. This is a really powerful force that's being driven by new policies and some pretty gnarly trade disputes that are still going on. And first up, we've got a policy with a pretty memorable acronym, BAGLE. It stands for the Big AI Government Export Levy. So instead of just banning AI chip sales to China, the US has decided to slap a 15% tax on them. And this isn't just another tax. It's a huge shift in strategy. It's a real pivot away from all-out confrontation to, monetization. And the fallout from this was pretty much immediate. For chip giants like NVIDIA and AMD, it's kind of a mixed bag. I mean, sure, they get access to the huge Chinese market, but that 15% tax comes right off their bottom line. But look at Qualcomm. The impact is listed as neutral. Why? Because the real story here isn't just the tax itself. It's the precedent. It's a signal that the government is now willing to stick its nose directly into commercial deals, and that creates uncertainty, which is a headwind for the entire industry. And listen, this government squeeze isn't just hitting the high-tech world. The auto industry is really feeling the pain from all these tariff battles. Costs are going up for GM, Ford, and Stellantis. And if you look across the Atlantic, a new US-EU trade framework was called disappointing, and that sent a chill through European markets. It hit everyone, from car makers like Volkswagen to luxury brands like LVMH. It's just a really clear sign of growing friction in global trade. But hey, that's only one team pulling on the rope. On the other side, pulling in the complete opposite direction, is our key tailwind. This incredibly powerful wave of hope and, frankly, speculation about deregulation. This optimism is really strong, but you have to look at what's fueling it. So, cannabis stocks rallied, but it was on the potential for deregulation. Asian markets surged on the hope of a trade truce. You see the pattern here? In both of these cases, the tailwind isn't some concrete event. It's all speculation about what might happen. It's a market that's basically running on the fumes of hope. And this wave of optimism isn't just in Asia or North America. If you go way down under, Australia's ASX 200 just hit a record high. And that surge is another classic tailwind. It's a mix of some real strength in commodities, plus this widespread hope that the central bank there is about to cut interest rates. Okay, so we have these huge macro forces pulling back and forth. But how does this tug of war actually affect the big-name companies, the giants caught right in the middle? Let's zoom in on a few of these mega caps to see how they're trying to deal with all this chaos. NVIDIA's situation is just the perfect picture of this conflict. In the short term, it was a pure tailwind. The news broke that they had renewed access to China, and the stock just took off. But then there's the medium term, which is a headwind. That 15% BAGLE levy is going to squeeze their profits. And the long-term risk? Well, this whole thing sets a really dangerous precedent for government intervention, potentially opening the door for more taxes or even tighter restrictions down the road. Meanwhile, tech titan Apple is getting pulled from all sides. And one of the biggest headwinds is coming from this very public threat from Elon Musk. He's going right after Apple's App Store policies, which is really part of this larger, escalating fight between the big platform owners and the developers who feel totally squeezed by them. And all this external pressure is coming just as people are starting to ask some tough questions internally. While all its competitors are rolling out these flashy AI products, Apple's sticking to its much more secretive, invisible AI strategy. And this has led some analysts to ask a question that is terrifying for any tech giant. Is Apple facing a potential BlackBerry moment? Are they fatally misreading the next huge shift in the market?
Speaking of big personalities, Tesla is just a perfect case study of this constant back and forth. On the Headwinds side, you've got major setbacks. Their high-profile Dojo AI project was shut down, called an evolutionary dead end, and key executives are heading for the door. But on the Tailwind side, there's some incredible progress. Their robotaxi plans are moving forward, and get this, they just applied to become an electricity supplier in the UK. That's a massive potential new business line.
So, with all these massive global forces at play, how does it all feel on a more human level? Let's just look at two final kind of curious stories before we get to our final word on all this. Amidst all this market chaos, how do people even define financial success anymore? Well, a recent Schwab survey actually asked Americans what it takes to be considered wealthy. And the magic number they came up with was an average net worth of $2.3 million. It's a surprisingly specific number for such an uncertain economic world, isn't it?
And finally, for a perfect little David versus Goliath story that kind of sums up these market forces, there's a small independent movie theater chain called Apple Cinemas. And they're in a legal trademark battle with, yup, you guessed it, Apple Inc. It's a small business feeling the immense pressure and just the gravitational pull of one of the biggest corporate giants on the entire planet.
Which really brings us all the way back to our central question. In this global tug of war, which side is ultimately going to win? Will the future be defined by the headwinds of government control, or will it be defined by the tailwinds of market innovation and pure optimism? That is the multi-trillion-dollar question shaping our world right now. Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.